A pleasant good evening and a warm welcome to everyone present here in the inaugural ceremony of a new exhibition held at the Kadambari Gallery entitled as Fragments of Earth and Life. Today with us in the audience we have the guests, Mr. Sadanand Menon, Mr. Sharad Nambiar sir, Ms. Anita Pottakolam, the artist of today's evening, Mr. and Sir Murali Sivaramakrishnan and his wife Dr. Usha. The artist of today's evening, Mr. Murali Sivaramakrishnan, is an artist, a poet, and an author. He is also an expert in the field of Indian aesthetics and theory. According to him, he draws his inspiration from nature, and it is based on nature that he tries to express it in the form of artworks, in the form of landscapes earlier, and now in the form of abstractions. Now, I would like to request our guests to conduct the lamp lighting ceremony so as to seek the blessings of God and conduct this event on a positive note. Now, I would like to request Mr. Sadanand Menon to share a few words with us.
So obviously, first of all, congratulations, Murali, for your exhibition after a long time in Chennai. And even though he's been a sort of native to this region, as they say in anthropology, he's Pondicherry and all this sort of thing, but essentially in Kerala, and good to see him here. And I have been seeing some of Murali's works for the last 3-4 years when he's been sending me on email, several iterations of the work that he does. And we normally call this kind of artistic work, as he himself calls it, abstract expressionism. It's a particular category. I mean, I'm not going to explain what it is, but it's a category that, in a sense, stands opposed in a significant way to what is called narrativism, which is telling a story. So here is something that you can make a story yourself. You can decide what the red color means. You can decide what the yellow means. You can decide why it is vertical and why it is not. You can decide. It's your narrative. Not the artist has his or her own narrative, but in the sphere of abstraction, the viewer is free to make their own narratives. And this has been a tussle that has been going on for quite some time. I think the real era of abstraction began in Western art practices somewhere around the early 19th century. Before that was mostly figurative. Mostly narratives, either on the walls or on canvases or on ceilings, and that's been the story. But I think in the Indian context, this is a much further provenance, much older provenance, and as all of you were there for the lamp lighting would have noticed below the lamp a column that has been made, which is a brilliant form of an abstract work. It doesn't technically, within quotation, mean anything. If you stand in front of it, what does it mean? It means what you want it to mean. It can mean beauty, it can mean a flow with line and form, it can mean a contact with the earth, it can mean something that is impermanent, it can mean something that is evanescent. So meanings are not something that you look for in abstract art, even though reality is the basis of abstraction. And it's a bit like if you were, I mean, even in this group, if I were to watch this, if this gentleman with the video camera, diffuses his focus. Instead of keeping a sharp focus in which all our contours are seen very clearly, supposing he puts it out focus, then we'll all look like abstract people. He'll look like an ochre color, I will look like some pale blue color, whatever. We'll become colors. or will become unidentifiable forms. And this has been a practice in modern art for quite some time. And in the 19th century, there was, of course, a whole lot of debate around it in the West. In America, for example, a very important modern artist called Whistler, who was also a poet, a very famous name in American art. When he presented his first exhibition, again, one of America's greatest thinkers called John Ruskin went to see the exhibition, and he said, "This is like paying the artist 200 guineas for shoving a pot of paint onto the face of the viewer," etc., etc. So all this kind of reactions have come about abstraction, but then abstraction is very much part of our life. It's very much part of current social conditions, current economic conditions. Karl Marx has a whole chapter in his theories of surplus value on the idea of labor and the idea of value. Labor is concrete, labor is material, value is abstract. Why should this cost, say, 1,000 rupees, this mic? We don't know. Why should that camera cost 5,000 rupees? We don't know. Why should this painting be marked at, I hope you marked it 1 lakh or something. Why not? So we don't know. Where does value come from? Where does value accrue from? That's an abstraction of contemporary society, and we are all dealing with it. We are all part of that web of the interplay between reality and abstraction, and often you can capture reality, or you can imagine you're capturing reality in a particular way because it seems, yes, I'm seeing Anita here, I'm seeing Sharath here, I'm seeing Murali here. It's reality. But behind that reality, there's also an abstraction called a human being, called a certain set of values, a certain set of desires, a certain set of predilections, a certain intellectual component, a certain ideology. They're all abstractions. So abstract art, therefore, has today come to mean a lot of things. And in the 20th century, just about every movement you name, except realism and naturalism, except these two movements, the 20th century has been a century of several art movements, from Dada art to op art to pop art to surrealism to Fauvism, to you name it, pointillism, on and on and on. Several movements, every 3 or 4 or 5 years, a new movement in art has emerged in modern art. Almost all of them have been abstract movements. Again, this has been a contention in Indian modern art too, whether a figurative artist is more relevant than an abstract artist. So these are all debates that are still going on. We're in the crux of those debates, and they're actually very violent. If you enter the world of visual art, they're also very violent debates because nobody's satisfied with simple answers anymore. So I'm very impressed by the fact that Murali has continued on this track since his days in Pondicherry as a professor of English and so on. And besides his poetry and his literary output, he has also moved into visual art. And one can see, obviously, it's a very restless spirit. He's producing work at a very rapid rate. I don't know how Usha lives with this. Every day she's asked to look at a new painting, I'm sure. So I think it's quite commendable that that energy you have kept going, and that passion for creating new work you have kept going. There is one thing a question that keeps reappearing in the realm of abstraction. For example, very famous names like Rothko, one of the great American abstractionists. He was accused of repetition, that you're repeating the same thing over and over again. What is new in it? The last time I saw the square that you made, or Joseph Albers, a very important German artist, who worked on the meaning of two colors coming together. Does it produce a new meaning? If red and black come together, is there a meaning there? Is there a meaning in red? Is there a meaning in black? And is there a meaning in the in-between space, the interstice between the connection of the two colors? And it's a very, very big debate. Joseph Albers is considered a great theoretician of the 20th century, and he's written all about this. What was called color balance. Supposing this black was still here, then would the painting have changed? Would our attraction to it, would it have changed? So on and so forth. So it's a must study for people who are into art, Joseph Albers' contributions. But this charge that it is repetitive hasn't really gone away. People are still bothered with this idea that an abstractionist more or less sticks to the same area, doesn't move out too much. You're preoccupied with one kind of visual, with one kind of set of colors, with one kind of set of all these color balances, and then you repeat. But interestingly, this charge is never applied to, say, a sunrise. Every day the sunrise is the same. You don't say, oh, what a boring sunrise. Yesterday it was like that, today also it's like that. And nobody stands in front of a sunrise and says, what does it mean? It's so abstract, what does it mean? We don't say that. So in human creative, interventions, this questions keep coming up. You don't charge the Carnatic musician or the Hindustani classical musician with repetition. In an alap, you're just repeating all the time. But repetition is hardly a concern there, because every cycle brings you to a new point. And as with the visual artist too, every set of a new set of explorations on the canvas brings you to a new position. You move ahead. You break through somewhere. You understand light a little better. You understand color a little better. You understand form a little better, etc., etc. So I'm not going to make this a lecture, but it's just triggered by this experience of seeing Murali's work. I think there may be 40 or 50 paintings displayed here, which is quite a sumptuous number to get into the artist's work. Had it been just 10 or 15, we might still have had reservations. Okay, what is it? But now when you have such a large number of material, it's a great way to enter the work. And I think it enables us to get close to the artist and his own preoccupations and his own concerns and so on. So I'm very glad that Murali has offered us this opportunity to come close to his thought and his work process. I wish you all the success. I wish this becomes a sellout exhibition. And before I conclude, I must also give another example of abstraction, which Murchana demonstrated when she asked me to come. So, no, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. So this is also an idea of abstraction. I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of you, but sound, volume, tone, everything contributes to this idea of abstraction. You can say something in a totally atonal way. Today there was an earthquake in Libya in which 20,000 people died. It's an abstraction, no emotion in it. So this kind of thing is part of all of we carry abstraction within us. We carry, glimpses of it in every aspect of our life. In the way we walk, in the way we talk, in the way we dress, in the way we eat, it's all there. The point is to bring out a certain essence out of it, a certain element out of it. I've been very partial to abstraction because I lived with two major artists of India, somebody called Chandralekha, dancer and choreographer, who began with Bharatanatyam, which is itself an abstract form, but then moved on to complete abstract, no storytelling, no narratives, nothing about Radha, Krishna and Rama, Sita and all that. Complete takeoff on the idea of time, space, sexuality, intensity, erotica, all these kind of things, which are abstract spaces. Dashrath Patel, the man who founded the NID in Ahmedabad, again an abstractionist, great photographer, visually very strong, but when he came to painting, he moved into abstraction. When he worked with design, he moved into abstraction. Utility plus abstraction. So it's a very interesting shuttle that happens in all our lives between reality and abstraction. And I'm very glad that Murali's exhibition has given us an opportunity to enter this space. Thank you, Murali.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your wise words with us. Now I'd like to request Mr. Sharat Nambiar to share a few words with us.
Glad to have you, Murali, here and Usha here to bring a painting and exhibit it in Dakshinachitra. And I am amazed to know that you're a poet and a writer too, and ecologist and so many things. You're multifaceted. So we're glad to have you here. And we look forward to see your paintings in greater detail as those days go by.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your words with us. I would like to request Mrs. Anita to share a few words with us.
Thank you, Mr. Sivaramakrishnan, for this. I'll be very brief. I'll just say that actually art is life. Without art, we're all sort of enter a very boring clerical world, and the art is the only thing that saves us from that mundane life. So thank you very much for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to request the artist of today's evening, Mr. Murali Sivaramakrishnan, to deliver his ideas and expressions behind these artworks with us.
Good evening, everybody. As a rule, most artists refuse to speak much, especially in front of their own works, because we assume that art is a better way to communicate. Art has a different language of communication, and there is no point in us, trying to fill in the blanks with meaningless blabber and words, because they don't lead us anywhere. Probably that is the reason why, poets write poetry, and painters paint, and sculptors sculpt, and filmmakers make films, because we assume that, these are the ways in which we can communicate a little stronger, if at all we have something to communicate. As Eliot has put it, after such knowledge, what forgiveness, After Sadanand has actually given us a whole history of, the abstract expressionism and the way in which it has moved from west to east, and how the artists have tried to frame language between silence and shouting. I don't think I can just fill in the blanks like that, but then when I stand here before you, I feel that, I need to reframe it a little. It's not that I'm dissenting in any way, but abstraction has always been there, whether it is west or east, because as a painter, I feel that, you transcend all languages. If you go to Japan, you have to speak Japanese, and if you go to England, you speak English, but you can't speak Japanese in England, and you can't speak English in France. They need different languages. But as a painter, even if I go to Russia or Japan or the US or Kazakhstan, I can just use my lines and forms, and then I can communicate. So communication through the visual and the kind of, the graphics and the narratives which we make, that goes beyond boundaries. So there is nothing called Western art or Eastern art. I don't think that is a right way of looking at it. Of course, our masters, my own master for that matter, I'm like Egalavya for that matter, because I have grown up with a master who was always absent, an absent authority in my life, KCS Panikkar, for instance, who started this Cholamandal, he was the first man who stepped out of, the kind of figurative that we were making, and he used this lines and forms in a different way, verbal kind of thing, words and images, that of course gave me a kind of inspiration. When I was in school, we had a small gallery in Trivandrum where KCS Panikkar's paintings were established, and I was among the 3 or 4 people who went there to help to put up the Panikkar sir's paintings, So where I could actually touch them and feel them and put them up, his watercolors, his landscapes, and his words and images, These are the things which actually triggered me into this world of abstraction. There was no difference between the west or east, He always used to inspire our people to go westwards, of course. Another person who actually taught me the basics of looking at things was Kanai Kunjaraman, a person from the north part of Kerala, but who traveled, westwards, who grew up in Paris, and is one of the major sculptors in our part of the world. He created sculpture, 3-dimensional thing, and he always used to tell us about KCS Panikkar. Panikkar told him, Kunjarama, just go to Paris, experience things there, and then come back here. And he went there and he came back and he started creating things here. And he used to tell me, Murali, don't be so religious about art. In the sense, don't be so religious about the canvas space or whatever you're doing. Just destroy it. Do whatever you want, Just take it apart and then try to put it. This is one way of saying deconstruct. it was not merely to reconstruct, but to deconstruct. And this is what I used to do in my own work. And when this particular exhibition is actually, I mean, I have had many solo exhibitions, but then most of the times when we have our solo exhibitions, we try to create a kind of narrative, in the sense a continuity of, see, a set of paintings should have a continuity. So here I tried to create continuity in terms of broken linearity. There is no linear narrative here. If you look at all these kind of works, I have tried to make them vertical, more than landscape forms. I started out as a landscape painter, a plein air painter, sit outside and do landscapes. And even now I do that, I am so excited when I get a chance to do watercolors. I sit outside and work on watercolors. But working on watercolors, when I want to have an exhibition like this, I feel that, one should make a different sort of narrative, not a kind of linear narrative. Perhaps a circular one without, having a center. So I just wanted to go out of it. And this kind of deconstructive non-linearity is that which I have tried to do through these verticalities and abstract forms. Colors I have used liberally, because I have used very opaque sort of colors. These are not usual natural colors. They are, acrylic colors. Acrylic is always a little bit of plastic. A lot of people tell me that you are using plastic. You are going against your environmental concerns. Yes, that is right. There is a lot of plastic in this. It shouldn't be there. But then I thought this plasticity and this opaqueness is that which actually tells us, there is a kind of, it reflects into yourself. When you look at each painting, you go back, you go into yourself. Not go back, you return to yourself. And then this sort of, internal narratives is what we can frame through this vertical, opaque, non-landscape, non-figurative, non-representational forms like this. They are neither Eastern nor Western, but I have tried to root myself in the present. In the present, I think it was Sadanand who used this word, the politics of, art. The politics of art actually tells us to look within ourselves. Things are getting so complicated. Whatever you say, you can be, misread, misunderstood, and then you will be accused in that way. You will be stand framed if you say something. So one has to be all the time on one's guard, I shouldn't be blabbering, I shouldn't be blundering, I shouldn't be saying something, because a lot of people are there who just get away with all these things. They make all these kind of stupid remarks and meaningless things, and they just get away, like somebody who said recently, we are condemned to be ruled by these people, or they're taken to, maybe we are under the heels of people who don't understand anything, for that matter. Even if you are trying to scream outside, like the child in the story, the emperor is naked, you are trying to scream, but nobody seems to listen to you, because your language is twisted and taken apart, and one should be very careful when one makes statements like that. So in the present, I thought the safest thing is to do these abstractions and have a sort of exhibition where I can talk about this not through the words, but through forms and lines and colors and textures. If that such a thing succeeds, I would be most happy. So I am glad that this Fragments of Earth and Life, that is what I have titled these paintings. Fragments of Earth and Life is one of the narratives. Earlier I used to paint Belonging to Earth, Touch of Earth, Only One Earth, this sort of earth signs, a lot of series of paintings connected with Earth. But now this is fragmented sort of thing. Look, the Earth is vanishing, it is disappearing, and we need to be concerned. We have to be concerned. It's our responsibility. And time we woke up, to realize that these things are, we are losing a lot of things. So with this sort of message, not as a propagandist, not as a painter who propagates ideas, but as a person who would like you to listen to yourself, go back to yourself, think. And this is what I have tried to do through this 40-50 paintings. I'm glad that I got a magnificent speaker like Sadanand to come and speak at this occasion. And he has graced us with this kind of wonderful explication of what it means to be an abstract painter. I'm thankful to him for having come here, taken the pains to come all the way, although he said he wasn't feeling too very healthy, but he has taken pains to come here. Thank you so much, sir, for having come here and given this lecture. Mr. Nambiar has always been supportive. Ever since I asked, okay, Dakshinachitra is a great place to have a painting exhibition, he was always welcoming. And he, despite anything, he said, this is a place, you just have your exhibition here and you come and do this show. So I'm so glad. And he has been supportive like anything. When we moved in, he said, you can stay in the guest house here, and we have a great guest house. It's a fabulous place to stay here. He has a beautiful, ambience which he has created and maintained for the last 20, 30 years. And Mr. Nambiar, I'm eternally grateful to him for having given this opportunity. Team effort, but he has maintained it. Team effort is fine. You have to be a leader to maintain it and give it shape like that. Mr. Nambiar, I am really thankful. I am thankful to the Director of Culture who has come here and given us a kind of different sign, flagged us off in a different direction about linking art to culture, linking fine arts to finer aspects of culture. Thank you, madam, for having come here and graced the occasion. I should thank my family. My wife, Dr. Usha, who has been here, she said she will do the vote of thanks, but I have taken the onus, I have taken it off her, and she has been throughout, she has been, as Sadanand said, she has tolerated me with all my vagaries and all these kind of things, She has been with me in this long journey, and I am thankful to her for having done this. My daughter has created a website, and that website is already mentioned there in Earth and Life. muralis.co.in is what she has. She is the one who creates and maintains the website, and she has also created a small video which is to be played here. Which will be played here. So I'm glad that these, and I'm thankful to her, Tejasvi Murali, for having taken her lapwing ads. She calls it the lapwing. Lapwing is a bird, of course. And that is what she has done. I thank her. I thank each one of you for having taken the pains to come. In fact, I can name everybody here, except one or two. The rest, of course, because some names are difficult to name, that is all. Others I can easily name, each and every one of you. Thank you so much for bringing your smile and your presence here for this occasion. I thank him for having taken pains to done the video here. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your words. I would like to proceed to the event of vote of thanks now, which is why I would like to call Dr. Usha for delivering the vote of thanks.
I was told to give the vote of thanks, and so it was Prarthana who insisted that we should have somebody from the family to give a vote of thanks. So I thought I'll take on the onus, because there's none of the other members, like my children, could not make it. So I thought I'll do that. That's why I'm here today. First of all, I'd like to thank Murali, because though I'm not sure I know anything about abstractions, I enjoyed listening to your lecture. I'm glad. I'm quite enlightened by that. But I enjoyed the beauty of the paintings, the aesthetic value of the paintings. So and thank you for the paintings, which I enjoyed as much as everybody else. Mr. Sadanand Menon, I'm so happy to have been able to listen to you. I mean, I have listened to you earlier, but in physical sense, this is the first time I'm listening to you. And that was a very interesting talk you gave. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Nambiar, Sharat Nambiar, he has been with us all throughout the whole thing. He has been very helpful. And thank you very much for bringing us here. And I would like to thank Prarthana and all the other team. I'm sorry, I'm finding Monkchana. So I would like to thank all of you. And I would like to thank you, Anita, for being here and gracing the occasion. So, and each one of you, thank you very much for being here. It was indeed a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, I would like to finally thank all the people who have joined today's event and have turned this event into a successful one. I would also like to request the people to enjoy the refreshments that have been arranged outside. Thank you.